following podcast is intended for mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised. So, kids shouldn't be listening. Elton says fuck and shit a lot. Sometimes fucking shit, but rarely does he advocate actually fucking shit. You get it. Enjoy the show.
It's rare to read a memoir that begins with the author screaming and dying, but that's what we're getting into in this episode. So with that being said, I'm cashing in, folks. I'm blatantly pandering for engagement on the back of a tragedy. I'm clout chasing a dead man. This episode is all about Matthew Perry, noted actor of both stage and screen and author of the book we're doing today, Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing. It's his memoir. He's an all-around good guy who recently, shuffled off this mortal coil and into the great beyond. What am I doing? Am I a terrible person exploiting the memory of a good person? Am I a bastard of the worst kind? Find out my answer to these things and other questions by joining me in this descent into greed's hungry maw. Will I save myself by finding moral clarity via a book written by someone who is, overall, far, far better than myself? Maybe. I think Matthew Perry would have liked that, helping me out. And I'll explain why. Just keep listening.
Countdown for blast off. X-5, 4, 3, 2, X-1, fire.
And on a lighter note, Marilyn Monroe once said, "Fame doesn't fulfill you. It warms you a bit, but that warmth is temporary." Unquote, if I didn't say quote before. And this is an anonymous quote. Quote, "Addiction is a monster. It lives inside and feeds off you, takes from you, controls you, and destroys you. It is a beast that tears you apart, rips out your soul, and laughs at your weakness. It is a stone wall that stands to keep you in and the rest out. It is a shadow that always lurks behind you, waiting to strike. Addiction lives in everyone's mind, sitting, staring, waiting." Unquote. Those two quotes, though decidedly not funny, I feel capture the spirit of where we will be heading in this episode. A little warning here, I will be talking about addiction and its myriad of problems. So if you're not comfortable with that, then feel free to skip this one. Though, I will try to toss in some levity now and again. The best as I can anyway. Still, you get it. Under the watchful eye of Bob Stratos and Apollo, welcome to the internet's most fucktastic podcast with the host who only looks like he's bookster baiting? What the fuck? Well, this little intro here is, I guess, going to need to be explained. Bob Stratos is the Funko Pop version of the He-Man character Stratos from the cartoon He-Man. And Apollo is my dog, a beloved boxer who lived for 9 lovable years until we had to have him put down due to terminal health issues. I'm fine. I just want to give a good dog his due. And he was such a good dog. As for the bookster baiting, well, that was just me trying to, shortcut a little bit by having my usually drawn-out processes condensed or refined, folks. I thought I'd cut some corners by copying and pasting my browser history into a cheap generative AI writing site and have it crap out a tagline for me. But apparently just giving it the addresses and copying my web history and all the tabs I have open on my computer, well, I guess, some adult content oriented, material might have slipped into
Porn. He means porn, folks.
The mix. Damn it. Seriously? You're going to go there?
Go where? The truth? Should I have lied to the tens of people?
Well, no, but there are, I don't know, better ways to say?
Oh, speaking of porn, get this. I mentioned your podcast to the internet tech overlords. They were very interested in it for reasons. So fingers crossed. You might get some social media attention. Yay, right?
What? Oh, wow. Thanks. That's.
Yeah, well, don't thank me just yet.
What? So, what,
okay, now listen. First, it really does depend on which way this whole thing lands. Just keep that in mind. This might not be the worst thing ever. Stay positive.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So, okay, I overheard the internet tech overlords discussing the limitations of chipset miniaturization and its effect on bandwidth and, a bunch of other crap that I eventually stopped listening to. Full disclosure, they were pretty high at the time. And yeah, I got bored. You know me. Needless to say, weed got the better of them, and we're inspired to start deleting stuff off the internet to keep things moving around faster or something like that. From what little I could piece together, it's like loosening up the bowels of the internet, I guess, but to load it with more crap instead of crapping it all out. Wait, eat more to crap? I think this simile really fell apart for me. Let me think of something else.
The point, please.
Whoa! There, Captain Testy. Dial down the vitriol, please. Long story short, they don't want to be the bad guys. They figured that being the ones to delete the entire world's free porn supply was bad for their optics, right? So they started looking for a scapegoat, or a patsy, if you will. But yet again, they didn't want to be the bad guys in deciding on one. Anyway, it was suggested by okay, it was me. I suggested that decision be tied to some arbitrary event that seemed to be up to chance. But come on, we would all know it was predictable in the end. There was a lot of back and forth before it was suggested by someone.
By you?
Yeah, maybe. Okay, yes, it was. Yes, it was suggested by me. Okay, still, you were mentioned to very important people, and they liked what they heard. So pretty cool, right?
Oh
right?
My God, the point, please.
I said, well, this guy Elton, he's always saying his podcast episodes run way too long. So what if we gambled all of the porn on the internet, absolutely all of it, on whether the episode he's currently working on, comes out shorter? Oh, let me tell you, they went for that idea in a big, big way. I'm telling you, it was creepy, weird, evil smiles all around. I'm telling you, you're probably going to be going viral any freaking second now. You should be very jazzed about this.
They're going to blame deleting all the porn on the internet on me?
Hey, any publicity is good publicity, right? Didn't somebody famous or, well, now that I think about it, not that well known person say that? Somebody said it. I'm pretty sure. Still, you'll be remembered as the guy that got all of the world's free porn deleted. I happen to know that there are more than a few fringe religious fundamentalist groups that will be more than happy for that to happen. And guess who's going to be their big hero? You, hotshot. Prepare for greatness.
The majority of humanity will want me dead.
Or if and when the porn-starved majority do get a hold of you, you'll get to be a martyr for the fundamentalists. Glass half full, Elton. Glass half full.
Oh, God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do?
Well, goodness, Elton, if porn means that much to you.
Life means that much to me. Do you know what people are like without porn?
Oh, okay, fine, Elton. If life means that much to you, then just make the episode shorter.
Right. I can do that. Yeah, let's just shorten the episode.
The one you're currently recording right now as we speak.
Right. Yeah, right. This episode. Yeah.
The one you're elongating with every second and still not talking about the book?
Oh, shit. Matthew Perry, right? Initially, initially I had the idea to do an episode about Matthew Perry to exploit the news cycle and the search algorithm uptick generated around his death. I'm not proud of it, but here we are, just choking down the shame and hoping for more ad dollars because in this episode, like I said before, we're talking about Matthew Perry and his book, Friends, lovers, and the big terrible thing. Unfortunately, I didn't know that this episode would take on the kind of drama you'd get from a cartoon character trying to blow out the fuse of lit dynamite. So just bear with me here. Matthew Perry was a famous actor, most notably the portrayer of a character named Chandler Bing, one of 6 very famous characters from the TV show Friends. But I'm getting ahead of myself. First, birth, or as Matthew Perry's Chandler would call it, birth. Matthew Perry was born on August 19th, 1969, the only child of John Bennett Perry and Suzanne Marie Morrison, but she gets remarried. Anyway, he was born in Williamstown, Massachusetts, a town one side claims to not have any crime. No crime! None! You know what that means? It means that if you want to start a crime wave, you do it in Williamstown. They'll never see it coming. Unless the place is so crime-ridden now that everyone is a criminal and is lying about their criminaling and just trying to sucker in more people to criminal their crimes on. Well, not this guy. Not this guy, Williamstown. I figured you out. You're sus, as the children say. You almost had me, too, with your mostly crimeless streets and sleeping policemen. Well, probably sleeping, right? I mean, notice I said mostly. Why? Why? Because you're busted, Williamstown. According to the 2020 crime rate in Williamstown, Massachusetts, according to CrimecityData.com, it's a crime index, the crime rate is 10.7 times smaller than the U.S. average. Smaller, but not non-existent. Am I right? Plus, it was higher than in 16.2% of U.S. cities. Higher. Did you hear that? And higher than a whopping 16% of cities. I fucking threw those straight up facts at you and stuck the landing. Fuck you, Williamstown. You're not criming me with your criminality. Bullet dodged. Moving on. No, it seems like Williamstown is really safe, especially for a college town. Please forgive me, Williamstown. Matthew was born in the perfectly low-crime, sleepy little college town of Williamstown, with its probably sleeping cops. Born to parents John Bennett Perry and Suzanne Langford, who was just some random college student Johnny knocked up. Matthew was raised for the laborious life of professional pornography, often being taught to seduce various types of women while posing as a plumber, handyman, or television repair. Huh? What? Wait a minute. Fucking AI script. No. His mother was in college. Was a college student. She would graduate to become actually a moderately famous national political celebrity of sorts in the Great White North of CANADADA, where Matthew would grow up. She would go on to be the press secretary to the Prime Minister of Canada, Pierre Trudeau, who served as the 15th Prime Minister of Canada from 1968 to 1979 and from 1980 to 1984, coming in twice. Speaking of which, I'm going to jump ahead here for a second. Matthew would attend Rockcliffe Park Public School in CANADADADA during his early years. Rockcliffe, it's like a boarding school for boys in Ottawa. He would become friends with a fellow student and son of his mama's boss, none other than Justin Trudeau, a future prime minister of Canadistan, and also someone he would beat the ever-loving shit out of. Allegedly. Yeah. Matthew could never remember for certain whether he actually did beat the piss out of the future world leader or not. But I mean, who would, right? I can tell you, I can't even tell you how many, unbeknownst to me at the time, future celebrities, world leaders, and timeless icons and stuff I laid into when I was just a tyke. I mean, too many fists, too little time. Am I right? High five. No? Okay. However, Matthew's possible violent encounter with the younger Trudeau did lead to a semi-funny exchange on Twitter between himself and Justin regarding whether he did whoop the ass of the future Prime Minister's ass. Trudeau, in 2017, tweeted, quote, "Saw a constituent that resembled Matthew Perry. Let me tell you, the worst part about looking like Matthew Perry is looking like Matthew fucking Perry." To which Matthew Perry replied, quote, "The worst thing about being Justin Trudeau is folding like a weak Canadian bitch when being knocked the fuck out by Matthew Perry," unquote. The feud only escalated from there. Eventually it ended with Justin Trudeau ordering an airstrike on Matthew Perry's house and being told that Matthew Perry lived in Los Angeles and was not currently in CANADADADA. It's rumored that upon hearing the news, Justin Trudeau slammed his fist on the table and yelled to the sky, "God damn your dual citizenship, Matthew Perry!" Of course, that didn't happen. Unless you like poorly dramatized feuds between sitcom stars from the 90s and the and Canadian prime ministers, and are easily convinced of that feud's existence. The feud's existence, not the sitcom stars and Canadian prime ministers. They're real, not the feuds. You get it? Get it? They did have a back and forth over Twitter, though. That's true. Back when it was Twitter and not whatever it is now. And it went something like this. Justin Trudeau said, quote, "I've been giving it some thought, and you know what? Who hasn't wanted to punch Chandler? How about a rematch, Matthew Perry?" unquote. To which Mr. Matty Perry replied, quote, "Suck my fucking cock, Trudeau." No, okay, sorry, I couldn't help it. He really said, quote, "I think I will pass at your request for a rematch, kind sir, given that you currently have an army at your disposal," unquote. Not gonna lie, I think my original back and forth was better. Just saying. Moving on, we're back in time, as it were. Back to the time of baby Matthew. Matthew's dad, a fairly successful actor in commercials and some TV stuff, was best known for playing a sailor in Old Spice cologne commercials in the 1970s and 80s. I can't say I remember him, but I was a tiny child at the time and not into aftershave. So Matthew Perry's parents were both beautiful and very intelligent people who did get married. So, what could go wrong, right? Well, a lot, because soon they found out that marriage wasn't for them. It happens. But nor was being particularly good at parenting in some ways. So, fucking double whammy, right? Still, after being young, dumb, and one of them dealing with the after effects of being filled with cum, they would go and get divorced while Matt Perry was but a tiny 1-year-old baby Canadian. He would later say that he didn't blame them, though it did affect him deeply, namely by kickstarting a lifelong fear of abandonment and its many super savory and sad emotional scarrings. He would spend most of his time with his lovely mother being raised in Montreal, Toronto, and Ottawa, Canada, the capital of Canada, or, as the natives call it, CANADADADA. And I have been calling it up to this point, Canadastaticism. A couple of quick facts about Ottawa, by the way, where he mostly grew up. It'll be quick, because I spent so much time shitting on Williamstown. Again, sorry, Williamstown. Regardless, why make you hate geography in towns Matthew Perry lived in? Even more, right? A few quick facts about Ottawa, according to geoottawa.com. Ottawa is the 7th coldest capital in the world. Others that are colder include, in order of coldness, first are Ulaanbaatar in Mongolia, Astana in Kazakhstan, Moscow, Helsinki, Reykjavik in Iceland, and Tallinn in Estonia. Nearly half of the population of Ottawa is under the age of 35, making it one of the youngest cities in the country. Based on the fact previously mentioned to that one, it's safe to assume that everyone over the age of 35 dies from extreme cold. And In 1857, Queen Victoria of Britain chose Ottawa to be the capital of Canada during a binge drinking party that ended in a knife fight. Yep, shit-faced, Queen Victoria bet that she would name Canada's capital after whatever the guy she was fighting screamed while she cut his ear off if she won, and vice versa if she lost. They circled each other for over 5 minutes, slashing and jabbing at each other, to no avail. Each was dexterous and skilled, having years of experience under their belts. Guess who lost? You think the guy, right? I tricked you. Ottawa is what she screamed as she sliced the guy's ear off. Good times. Another fun fact, that guy that lost, none other than Van Gogh.
No, shit, really?
Jesus fucking Christ, where do you come from?
Huh? Wait, do you mean like philosophically or like my mom's vagina?
What?
What? Wait, no? Start over.
I don't have time for this, Alonzo. I have to save porn for the entire internet.
Oh, wow. That's a lot of porn, man. Look, I kind of think that if you need all that porn, man, you might want to talk to somebody, Elton. I think you might be addicted. For real. Oh, and sidebar question. How do you get a hard drive big enough for that? It must be the size of a Buick.
Alonzo, seriously, I don't have time.
Well, relax, okay? You don't have to tell me twice. Hey, I was reading about how in the future it'll be possible for billionaires to, buy and settle their own colonies up on Mars or some such shit. Isn't that crazy? Like, some really smart people are saying they would effectively turn those colony things into plantations. Like plantations that people can't escape from, because it's on a whole other planet and they're too poor to afford their own spaceship or oxygen. Well, unless they brought their own oxygen, maybe, right? How would you do that? Balloons or something? Where would you hide those?
Alonzo!
Well, okay, man. It's like I said, you don't have to tell me twice, Like I said before, it's like this. If you want me to leave, man, I'll stay as long as you want, okay? I'm not just going to stay here rent-free and be some kind of burden. So,
Alonzo!
Listen, I'll check back in with you later when you're not freaking out about, porno.
Alonzo!
Right. Okay, man, I'll be around later if you want to talk about your, problem, huh? Maybe, when I'm cleaning up the basement a little later. Hey, and since you're going to be messing with it, could you save some of that porn for me, man? I'd appreciate it. Later.
Basement? What is he... It doesn't matter. Moving on. So after Matthew Perry's mother and father split, Daddy went off to Los Angeles, California to indulge in the hot, steamy aftershave commercial scene. It's a little sleazy, but it doesn't smell all that bad. Kind of like an orgy with lots of hair, gold chains, and bottles of perfume, liquids laying everywhere. Or so I hear. While Dad was off in La La Land sloshing in rivers of Old Spice, Matt was living with his mom, who took the reins and went to work, and work she did. A lot. This would feed into Matt's need to please and entertain, as she was often stressed and distracted with her career as a spin doctor for a famously divisive Canadian Prime Minister. Having his parents in two places that far apart would really mess with Matthew's head, as you can imagine. More often than not, he was shuttled back and forth between Ottawa and LA via airplane, traveling alone. Yep. Maddie's mama and dada would chuck his tiny ass onto a plane and send him off on some international travel all by his lonesome. He was like 4 or 5 at the time. Well, yeah, but he would have an escort, kind of. Usually it was a stewardess that did the bare minimum of supervision. Did I mention that he was 4? 5? Yeah. Well, thereabouts. He was a tiny frequent flyer 4-year-old doing international travel all by himself. What the fuck was wrong with everyone involved? I'm including the entire goddamn world in that. Mom, Dad, the planet, all fucked up. No wonder so many serial killers were comfortable offing people back then. Literal children were sent to other countries by themselves on the regular. Why would serial murderers be any more scrutinized for being fucked up. Matthew did this for a while growing up as a ping pong kid, trying very hard to please both parents. And being the only child, it sucked, but any attention they did dole out, he got, until his mom found another guy. She dated, and somewhere actually even semi-long term, but none really stuck. This would fuel Matthew Perry's abandonment issues, as just as he was getting attached to, one of the guys or someone, or was all the way attached, they were gone. It happened so much that he remembers looking up at planes flying overhead with his grandma holding his hand, and he asked her if that was his new daddy leaving. Fuck, that's so sad. Damn it. Matthew would have a rough time dealing with the loneliness that came along with having a career-driven, politically famous mother who was the press secretary for a famously controversial prime minister, like I said before. When you're doing a public relations tap dance for a guy that did stuff like, oppose stripping accused Nazi war criminals of citizenship, and, couple that with an equally driven working actor father who was doing Old Spice gigs and who lived in L.A. to further his own career. Upon being shuffled between Ottawa and Los Angeles at the age of 5-ish, alone on international flights from Canada to the U.S., Matthew developed quite a unique blend of abandonment issues. And who could blame him? Perry touches on this in his book, elaborating on the extent of the damage it did. All of which I agree with. Who the fuck sends small kids, alone on a plane to another country and all? Let alone on a semi-regular basis. Hell, I can't even navigate through towns where I live now, as an adult. Seriously, I still have to ask my wife, a native of this area her whole life, where some places are. Places I've been to previously even, and fairly frequently, mind you, and I've lived around here for well over a decade. I still have to ask her where to go and how to get there. If I was 5, trying to navigate international travel alone, I'm fairly certain I would have climbed the charts on every missing persons list in both countries before my bags were even checked. As for the job his parents did at parenting, my personal opinion here, they shit the bed. Explosive diarrhea style. What the fuck are you doing entrusting an airline's underpaid employees to safeguard your kid on an international flight? Alone, by himself. Regardless, Matthew Perry would go on to survive his slew of international toddler jaunts across the U.S.-Canadian border, but not without some psychological scarring. But it wasn't so bad he ended up on the business end of human trafficking. My God. As it would happen, Matthew Perry, for all of his troubles with then, current, and soon future Canadian prime ministers, he was a very good athlete. Though it seems it was only really for one sport. He really liked to play tennis. Really liked to play fucking tennis. He played at fucking tennis. While on the set of a gangbang porn shoot called 40 Lovers, he was a ball boy during a scene in which 27 of the 40 male porn actors show up for a tennis lesson with the female club pro, and what the fuck? What? This can't be... Oh, for fuck's sake. AI. Fucking AI script, god damn it. Ugh. Matthew Perry loved to play tennis. He was a very competitive, persistent, and driven player, later claiming it to be ingrained in his personality and likely what didn't help him in the more troubled aspects of his life later. Perry practiced 10 hours a day and would become a top-ranked junior tennis player in Canada. Matthew Perry was basically having sex with the game of tennis. Oh, Christ! This fucking AI mess! Growing up in CANADADADA, Matthew developed two passions, playing tennis and hate crimes, as CANADADADANs usually do. Unfortunately, after being involved in too many criminal altercations, Perry was forced to give up one. To explain which one, here's a quote from a Men's Health magazine in 2012 that reads, quote, Matthew Perry sips a strawberry-flavored Capri Sun from a chilled glass. Pausing to reflect, he talks about his twin passions of tennis and perpetrating hate crimes. and his decision to end his pursuit of one in favor of the other. He said, quote, "Giving up tennis was one of the hardest things I ever did, but I fucking love committing hate crimes," he told Men's Health in 2012. Okay. He didn't say that, obviously. No. He actually said, quote, "Giving up tennis wasn't really a decision I had to make," he told Men's Health in 2012. "I was a very good tennis player in Ottawa, Canada, nationally ranked when I was like 13. Then I moved to Los Angeles when I was 15, and everyone in LA just killed me. I was pretty great in Canada. Not so much in Los Angeles," unquote. Unlike his tennis prospects, a career in acting would be a different story. It's the end of the quote from Men's Health. So being a driven, athletic teen with a passion and drive for tennis and not hate crimes, Maddie was also starting to feel the weight of his parental and mommy issues. He was depressed a lot and desperate for attention from what he would say was an understandably busy and emotionally wrung-out mom. Then came a remarriage, a blended family, and what Matthew felt was a diluted pool of familial attention. He had adamantly said repeatedly that his step-siblings and half-siblings, are amazing people, that he loved and helped save his life many times. However, at this time, he was just a teenager drowning in puberty. So 3 things happened around this time. First, at 13, Matthew Perry would become a nationally ranked tennis player in Canada, which is a pretty big deal. Second, Perry would start drinking and finding that he really liked it. And third, he didn't want to live with his mother anymore. Later, he said he felt bad about the way he left things and that he really probably shouldn't have left his mother in Canada. Still, he chalked it up to being a stupid kid, or something akin to that. So he packed up his bags and moved to Beverly Hills, that is, Black Gold, Texas tea, or just, California non-crude oil things. Why do I occasionally reference a show that went off the air in 1971? I wasn't even around back then when it was on. I saw reruns as a kid, but damn it, I'm rambling. After moving to Los Angeles around the age of 15 to live with his father, Matthew enrolled at Buckley School. He graduated from the private school in 1987. Other famous attendees of Buckley include famous person known for being famous, Kim Kardashian, and a director famous for his poor drawing and set flattening aesthetics, Paul Thomas Anderson. According to Perry himself, his almost superhuman driven drive for tennis excellence bled into his acting career as well, which became an outlet for his obsessive behavior. According to Perry himself, his almost superhuman drive for tennis excellence bled into his acting career, which became an outlet for his obsessive behavior. At 15 years old, I'm getting it. At 15 years old, Perry moved in with his father in Los Angeles, as I said before, and began to audition for stuff. TV stuff, acting stuff. Perry made his TV debut in 1987 on the soap opera Loving. He went on to star in a lot of other things, according to IMDb, including Second Chance, a show called Second Chance. Perry landed his first movie part while still in high school, a supporting role opposite star River Phoenix in a movie titled A Night in the Life of Jimmy Reardon, which came out in 1988. Unfortunately, the film came and went without much notice, though I remember watching it when I was a kid and seeing it on HBO and thinking that it was one of the most grown-up movies with teenagers in it that I had ever seen. Oh, and Meredith Salinger in that movie. Good Lord. That's where my crush began. Was she out of my league? Sure. I mean, she was 8 years older than me, but still, I had no shot. Then she marries Patton Oswalt. Patton fucking Oswalt? What the shit? I mean, maybe I did have a chance, though she did graduate cum laude with a degree in psychology in 1992 from Harvard. Could we have made that work? Not gonna lie, I doubt it. She would have seen right through my bullshit stupidity 2 weeks into it, if not sooner. It would have been a nice 2 weeks, though, just saying. Oh, man. Moving on. Though Matthew Perry was getting work on a semi-regular basis, nothing was catching. He craved fame. He dreamed of fame. He dreamed famey fame of being famous and faming fame things. Settling for nothing less, he poured himself into audition after audition, eventually landing a role he would be known around the world for, the legendary character of Dick Johnson, King of Astroglide Alley. Upon landing a supporting role in Buck Adams' powerful epic Schindler's Lust, he made a name for himself as being able to orgasm while crying. It set him apart from the rest of his group of up-and-coming wait. Fucking AI! Fuck! So getting back on track, back in September 1987, Perry got his TV debut starring in his first sitcom, Second Chance, as I mentioned up earlier. This show had a fantastical premise about a man who dies and gets a chance to go back to mentor a younger version of himself, played by Perry. The show was later retooled, dropping the dead man, talking to his younger self, and instead focusing on the teenage misadventures of Perry's character. Well, that didn't work out either, and despite its new direction, the sitcom utterly fucking failed to attract enough of an audience to stay on the air. After the series ended, Perry landed a series of small parts and guest appearances on such programs as Empty Nest and Growing Pains. He also had a supporting role on the short-lived Valerie Bertinelli comedic vehicle Sydney in 1990, a show which Matthew Perry developed a crush on Valerie Bertinelli, and before the show eventually imploded, he made out with her at a party thrown by her and her then-boyfriend, I guess at the time, Eddie Van Halen. Eddie was passed out at the time, as one does, at your own party. Long story short, nothing came of it, obviously, so Matthew Perry moved on to give a strong performance as Desi Arnaz Jr. in the television biopic Call Me Anna, about the life of actor Patty Duke. 3 years later, Perry tried to strike that sitcom gold with a show called Home Free. He starred as a young reporter who lives at home with his mother, his sister, and her 2 kids. After a few months, the series was canceled because... Did you hear what I just described? Did you hear what it was about? I was nodding off as I read it out loud. So then came the most important life-altering, pivotal role Matthew Perry would ever have. It would change his life change his life forever. He was cast in the pilot for LAX 2194, a show about baggage handlers at a futuristic LAX airport in the year 2194. Wait, what show did you think I was going to say? Matt would be locked into this terrible show, which apparently involved a lot of midgets for some reason. He'd be contractually locked into it for a good bit, actually. All the while, he got wind of a script floating around in the Hollywood sphere TV thing during this time that was currently being cast for that, the same time he was locked into that other show. It was called Friends Like Us, which would later be changed to just Friends.
Hey, have you seen my sack around here?
How do you do... What sack? What? Oh my God, what sack?
My hack, broski, my hack.
I've not seen anything you're talking about.
Found it. Oh, you sweet, sweet hacky sack. What would I do without you? Well, I mean, I guess I could do the same thing with a soccer ball, but that wouldn't fit in my pocket, would it, Alonzo? Not unless I deflate it. But then I'd need a pump, and that won't fit in my pocket. Hey, Elton, I'm going to go hacky down at the park. Want to go?
I really have to do this, Alonzo.
Look, I understand that you have a problem, and it's hard, man, but listen, I think you should know, and I'm sympathizing with you here. It truly breaks my heart to say this, but the reality of the situation is this. You can't save it all, man. You have to learn to let go. Let go of the porn. Oh.
Can you please leave now?
Sure, man. I understand. You need some time to yourself. But listen, indulging in some self-love isn't going to help you with your problem, man. It's only going to perpetuate it. I know. If I was downloading all the porn from the internet, I know what I'd be doing. But I'll let you come to terms in your own time. I'll be around later if you want to talk about anything, okay? Like about privatizing Mars. Did I tell you about that? Plantations on Mars.
Oh, dear God. I'm moving on now. In 1993, Marta Kaufman and David Crane had pitched their show about a group of friends to NBC, a network on the hunt for something to capture the attentions of a young urban audience. NBC wanted to find a show to ape the success of Seinfeld, which is also about a group of friends living and working in New York. Seinfeld's setup was still a rarity, though that summer, Living Single, about a group of black friends sharing a Brooklyn brownstone townhouse, premiered on Fox. There was clearly an audience for TV reflecting a reality of young people's lives, that they spent more time with friends than family. Kaufman and Crane had just moved to LA, leaving behind their own group of close-knit friends in New York City. This, combined with Kaufman driving past an LA coffee house full of mismatched furniture, battered sofas, and groups of young people hanging out, had sparked this idea. Their pitch read, "It's about friendship because when you're single and in the city, your friends are your family." Many elements of Friends were fantastical. Underemployed adults living in enormous Greenwich Village apartments, for one. I mean, they couldn't have afforded those fucking being broke all the time. But the idea of constructing, and waiters and waitresses and Joey, one guy, anyway. But the idea of constructing an alternative family from Friends was one that still resonated. After divorce rates peaked in the previous decade, many of those entering adulthood in the 90s came from broken homes, and they were holding off on matrimony themselves, with the average age of getting married creeping up each year. Quote, "There are complicated parental relationships going on in the background of Friends to kind of frame this coming of age, and that's certainly one of its appeals," end quote, says Neil Ewan, a senior lecturer at Winchester University School of Media and Film. My brain is starting to fall apart. Quote, "You're growing older and becoming an adult. You have problems with your parents, and you look to your friends for support. It's a universal theme," end quote, is what he said. Oh boy, my brain. 20-somethings were living a prolonged adolescence, too old to live with their own families, too young to have one of their own. It was Friends who were filling the gap, in real life and on screen. Through bad relationships, hookups, dodgy career moves, weddings, divorces, babies, and parental fallouts, the 6 characters on Friends were there for each other, even as some pairings moved from platonic to romantic, and back again. But were they? Oh my God. Were they on a break? Fuck. The idea of Friends as a new family wasn't the only way the show challenged domestic norms. No. Over the course of 10 seasons, its storylines covered same-sex marriage, infertility, adoption, surrogacy, and single parenthood. It didn't always get it right, and much has been written about its treatment of certain issues, particularly Chandler's transgender father. Recently, Kaufman has said the show's transphobic jokes and portrayal of Helena, that was Chandler's mom in the show, she was played by Kathleen Turner. It's one aspect she'd most like to go back and change. Marta Kaufman would like to go back and change. Friends managed to be simultaneously progressive and regressive. I recently just rewatched the whole thing, and there are some points in that show where, holy shit, man. A lot of homophobe jokes. It's really weird. Anyway, Friends managed to be simultaneously progressive and regressive. The show famously lacked diversity. Yes, it did. Yet featured several interracial relationships matter-of-factly. Too often, homosexuality was played for laughs. In its second season, it was one of the first U.S. sitcoms to show a same-sex wedding and feature real-life gay rights activist Candace Gingrich. I got that right. Officiating it. Alright, so that's Friends, more or less. However, Matthew Perry is still stuck in that fucking airport in the future. The way he tells it, he read the script of Friends called Friends Like Us, and was immediately drawn to the character of Chandler. He felt the character was basically him, but written into a show. He asked his agent if he could get him an audition for it. If they could get him an audition for it. And as history has shown, they, of course, said no. Why? Because he was fucking locked into the LAX thing in the future still, remember? Told you that. Still, he knew he was the only person that could play Chandler. So he kept asking and kept being told no. Actor after actor, that his friends of his, auditioned for the part with nothing coming of it. He even helped them interpret the part in his own style, kind of, hey, this is how I would say it, like, as me. Just do that. He did that, coached them to help them land it. But you know he got it already, don't you? You do. So why drag it out? Of course, Perry nailed the part of Chandler when he got his audition eventually because the show, the LAX 2090 fucking who cares, when that collapsed and wasn't going anywhere, they let him go and audition for it. And he fucking nailed it right to the casting director's head. Hammer, nail, everything. He went psycho during the audition, literally nailing the script to her forehead. Who the fuck is Chandler now, motherfuckers? I am Chandler. Then he whipped out his dick and started furiously masturbating while angrily eyeing the director and producers of the show. I am Chandler, he screamed. No eye contact. Okay, I couldn't help that. Longtime listeners, you know I can't help that. It's a compulsion. You have no idea how much I fought. How much I fought that whole thing. It's terrible. Long story short, he got the role, did it for the next 10-ish years, roughly, a pretty long goddamn time. Then it all ended in a fiery train wreck called, Jennifer Aniston wanting to move the fuck on. So everyone else's time on the show was pretty much sealed. Nail in the coffin. The Friends coffin. You know. So it goes, I guess. I mean, maybe. That's what I read. After his breakout iconic role on Friends, he moved on to, let's be honest, less than memorable stuff. His turn in the tabloids seemed to have been more eventful than his career on Friends. Still, he went on to do some supporting kind of walk-on roles on Ally McBeal and The West Wing. He directed an episode of Scrubs. Perry produced and wrote for a couple of shows he created, also writing and producing plays he wrote. He was nominated for awards, but nothing was ever really as noteworthy or successful as Friends. I mean, he did win Emmys and stuff too. I mean, that did happen. But for a lot of actors, what happened to him would have seemed terrible. But because of deals he made during his time on Friends, Matthew Perry would be rich for the rest of his life. So work seems like it would have been optional in his case, you know, and not in the case of most other actors. Just so we're clear and all, I think success should never be measured by how high you rise in a career or monetary status. To me, a lot of people deemed quote-unquote successful by those metrics are themselves unhappy and have made a lot of others unhappy too. Can you rightfully call yourself successful if you're miserable and others hate your guts or despise you for it? I don't know. I think Matthew Perry would have said he was very successful after Friends, in more ways than one. It seems that he finally started getting a handle on what really made him tick and how to regulate it for himself. He went out of his way to help others in similar situations to himself and help them find help. He was winning his never-ending battle against his addictions with prolonged sobriety. That seems to have been more important to him than almost everything else he ever did. Always working to keep his demons at bay with understanding and mindfulness shaped with years of experience, and more importantly, helping other people to find the means to do the same. According to Matthew, his troubles might have begun very early, possibly in childhood. He understood that a person's predilection to becoming an addict of some stripe or another lies in part in the genetic makeup of a person. However, he felt that his introduction to that discovery may have started with his parents giving him prescription barbiturates as a child, which, for clarity, they were prescribed by a doctor. He gives his parents and the doctor a pass on that, obviously, because it was during a time when the effect of these drugs were only partially understood. Still, he figures that given the stories he has been told about his childhood, he was probably stoned as fuck on those pills. That was only for a while, though. Eventually, Perry grew up in a broken home with a career-driven mother, an absentee father, and a lot of traveling between, as we discussed earlier. This would alter his mental faculties with attachment, self-reliance, and coping, as you might expect. Everyone's life yields myriad voids to be filled. Matthew's particulars seem to revolve around not being good enough, Not being good enough to keep his mother home, or not being good enough for attention, or not good enough for a present father. All of which would pound through his head in a torrent of noisy self-loathing and more, as you can imagine. All of that was remedied one night when Matthew and his friends got a hold of some alcohol and secretly drank the shit out of it. For the first time, Matthew felt the noise in his head lessen or cease altogether. Alcohol made him feel normal. Thus began a long, slow slip into alcoholism. A bout that would ebb and flow his entire life, never fully leaving and always waiting. In his book, he unostentatiously lays out how slowly it took him over, first by drops, then by full gallons. No joke. He would lose himself in drinking almost every night.
Hey, Elton, I think it's time for an ad.
Drinking after his friends had left him to his own devices. Then, it started to affect his ability to get auditions and more. He talks about how he felt alone and no one understood or couldn't understand the problem he had, so he hid it and kept it to himself. At first, alcohol was his coping medicine of choice. Then, after a jet ski accident during an off day from filming Fools Rush In, a movie he did with Selma Hayek, I think, he took prescription pills in combination with alcohol. The first time was when he took them and while high, he drove a red Mustang convertible across the desert feeling, quote, complete and utter euphoria. Quote, I remember thinking, if this doesn't kill me, I'm doing this again. And he would do it again, and did it a lot. At one point, taking 55 Vicodin a day. Yeah, you heard that right. Holy shit. Vicodin is a combination of two medications, hydrocodone, an opioid pain medication, and acetaminophen, a non-opioid pain medication. Vicodin is used to treat severe pain when other pain medicines do not work. Avoid alcohol if you're taking Vicodin. Use of them with alcohol can increase the risk of overdose and death. It's a Schedule II controlled substance, and it may be habit-forming. Addictive, this is according to healthgrades.com. Yes, it is very addictive. Yes, it is very addictive. They should also tag that with the last line, no shit. Full disclosure, I've had a bit of a history of drugs of various stripes too, Vicodin being one, and I've also mixed it with alcohol because I'm a stupid person on my best day. Those days, back then, not my best days. I can tell you that. Yes, one could very easily get addicted to them. For real. Matthew Perry, given his history of addictive tendencies coupled with his slew of psychological and emotional impairments, he was hooked. So began another chapter of Matthew Perry slipping further into his own abyss. A slip that drew out over his entire life. His book is an honest testament and assessment of not only his struggle, but the terrible, often deadly crucible of a disease that addiction is. It tears lives apart with isolation, self-torment, and physical debilitation that no one can ever be brought fully abreast of. It's a soothing nightmare that kills with slow, substance-fueled disconnection. I found his recounting and descriptions to be amazing in their honesty, especially from the position of his celebrity. I mean, the guy was still in the mix of show business trying to get work, sell work and stuff while this book was out, Coming out hard like that with a brutally honest recounting of your struggle might put some off potential work-related offerings, right? Hearing how, while on the job, drinking a fuck ton of vodka every every night and then come to work the next morning, by his own account, sober for the most part, but still. It would make people with a part that needed to be filled a little wary of offering it to you. I mean, I would think. He did a very brave thing, and certainly not for his benefit. It was to help people with the same struggle to understand that they weren't alone, and that their problem was not just singular to them. That's amazing, in my estimation, and he used his fame to push that message forward. More amazing. I think it should be required reading for anyone studying to be a counselor or wanting to learn more about addiction and what it's all about. Truly, it really is. It's brilliant in that respect. It's a shame Matthew Perry isn't around anymore to share and help more with the information he could be giving everyone. On that terrible yet hopeful note, I'd like to close this one out with some fun tidbits about the other stuff in the book. Like, say, the fact that Matthew Perry and I dated the same woman, Julia fucking Roberts. Sure, okay, I was too young for her at the time, and we only dated in my imagination, but still, we had something special, okay? The difference between my relationship, of course, and her relationship with Matt Perry is that, he loved her, and she was really, physically there for their relationship. But big fucking deal, right? That bastard stole her from me. But, beside that bit of fantastical and completely fictional connection, Matthew Perry's book, or as I like to call it, Perry Matthews, the most Matthew of Perrys, because my brain has just fucking given up. It's probably an early sign of something bad for me. Still, Matthew Perry's book starts, like I said early on, it starts with screaming and then just keeps screaming. I'm not kidding. He's in rehab, literally screaming at the start of this book. The screaming and pain, like he was dying, wasn't taken seriously by the rehab staff of the rehab clinic he was in. Fucking unbelievable. They thought it was a ploy to get more drugs, which, come on, they've probably seen tricks like that many times before. Because, and also, Matthew Perry was an abuser of, those drugs. We just talked about it a little bit ago, right? As it would happen, he was actually, in fact, dying, and they were wrong. That'll show him. Or showed them. That showed them. I don't know if it did or not. I'm only speculating. Still, long story short, ruptured colon from years of opioid abuse. Yep, though the darndest thing, as it should happen, taking 55 Vicodin a day and washing them down with various alcohols, it's not good for the body. Specifically the colon. Apparently. Poor guy, man. Jesus, I can't imagine the amount of pain he was in. Oh, okay. Okay, we'll go brighter. A little brighter than that. That seems to be a little rough. How about Matthew Perry had an unrequited crush on Jennifer Aniston? Yet another person I've dated in my head. It's like Matthew Perry specifically tortured my younger self without any of the parties involved ever knowing about it. How dare he? I guess, according to the book, Jennifer actually had a thing for David Schwimmer, who didn't know or something. I don't know. Regardless, Matthew Perry had a thing for her for years, and nothing ever came of it. They just became, ironically, friends. No pun intent. Is it a pun? It's not a pun. No, simile. No? I don't know. None of that was intended. Moving on. Back in 1994, Matthew Perry was broke. He was missing roughly half of his auditions because he was drunk. The other half, he looked like complete shit. That's when he booked the bizarre as hell airport in the Future show that we talked about earlier. Apparently, if you go through the entire series of Friends and rewatch it at various times, as Matthew Perry explains it, you can track whether he's on booze or pills. Goatee means pills. Weight gain means alcohol binging. So there you go. Kind of like a worst game of following the bouncing ball or something with the show Friends. Regardless, Okay, one more interesting tidbit from the book. Matthew Perry, despite his disappointment with never having gotten married or had kids, as much as he realized he wanted to later in his life, he was a bit of a ladies' man, actually. So much so that he had a formulaic bit he would pull on women so they would sleep with him. That he said worked really, really well. And it went something like this. Well, okay, wait. Okay, there's a little setup first. Okay, this would be laid on them on a date or some such thing like that. So it goes like this. Because of him, also because of him being such a huge star and had no problem getting women to agree to go out with him. I mean, he's Matthew Perry. So anyway, this is what he would tell them. Quote, "Hi, sorry I'm late. You look great, by the way. I've been really excited to finally meet you." Pause for appropriate positive response. "But I don't want to get off on the wrong foot here. I want to be as transparent as possible. I'm an open book. Ask me anything, I will tell you the truth." And then he would share more warmth right here. On a good day, she would tend to be nodding along right here, loving his transparency and his emotional pitch and his very air of suave involvement. Then he would bring the hammer down. Quote, "I'm not sure what you're looking for, but if it's any kind of emotional attachment, I'm not your man." Pause to let this sink in. "I'm not going to call you every day, and I'm not going to be your boyfriend, but if it's fun you're looking for, I am your man." End quote. He would go on to say that one of the greatest philosophical minds of the 20th century, Cyndi Lauper, was right. Girls do, in fact, want to have fun. However, in case the messaging after all that wasn't clear, he would continue, quote, "I'm an extremely passionate person." He would say that unabashedly, and then he would go on, quote, "In fact, I'm a bit of a romantic. Even beating up the elliptical machine, all I do is listen to songs about women in some kind of duress. But I'm not looking for, or available for, any kind of emotional relationship." He would repeat that just in case his message was a tad fuzzy. He'd go on, he'd again go on, quote, "I just got out of a long-term relationship and had just gotten sober, and I'm not looking to be in one now." Then he would nail the landing by saying, quote, "Oh, did you want to look at your menu? I hear the food here is fantastic." End quote. He admits that a few women walked out of the date right then and would give him a variation of, "Well, I'm not interested in that at all," and would get up and leave. But for the most part, his speech worked to a T. Methinks it worked because he was rich, famous, and Matthew Perry. I mean, that's a great story to lay on someone during a boring group chat somewhere, right? "Tell me something interesting about yourself." "Oh, well, I mean, I fucked Matthew Perry." Cue suspenseful music stab here. No music stab, huh? Damn it. I need a bigger budget. Now, full clarification here. I'm not much of a Friends fan, per se. This is despite having seen the entire series multiple times. Both of my wives were and are fans of the show, as are a few friends of mine, particularly one named Tanya. So, I've bought and watched and streamed the series Friends multiple times from beginning to end. And to prep for this episode, I watched it again. Truth be told, I've never found it to be very funny. As it gets older, it gets a little more cringy in parts, and with each passing year, just more cringy and weird a little bit. I've managed to find what I believe to be the only 3 really funny jokes / lines / bits in the entire run of Friends. They are as follows, and in no particular order. 1. Monica is trying to invite and apologize to Rachel's mom on the phone for not inviting her to Rachel's baby shower. Monica is so nervous in talking to her that while waiting to talk to her, Monica says that her ass is sweaty. 2. When Rachel makes the trifle wrong and Ross says, "It tastes like feet." 3. There's an episode where Phoebe is on a date and her date claimed that he wrote, quote, erotic novels for children, which were, quote, wildly unpopular, unquote. As I've come to research him, though, Matthew Perry, as a person, I kind of wish I had known him. But he and I didn't seem to move in the same circles. You know, he was a well-known actor who portrayed a pop culture icon, whereas I work in a large, loud warehouse-shaped refrigerator and make a little-heard comedy podcast about books. I doubt I would have ever bumped into him at any of the parties that I don't have and never will. However, I think his natural brand of snark and mine would have complemented each other nicely. It's always a shame when seemingly nice people, bounce off this mortal coil early. I feel like I personally missed out on something, despite not actually knowing the person or ever being able to interact with them without appearing to, break the law. He was a genuinely good guy, and it really sucks that he didn't get everything he hoped for out of his life. Later, after working through a lot of his shit, he realized he wanted a wife and kids, the whole package, only to find himself living alone. There's a part in the book where he says that he did manage to get some kind of small satisfactory closure. Not exactly what he wanted, but when Chandler got married and had kids and got the whole package. But I think I think Matthew Perry really should have gotten a chance. It's a real shame that he ended up getting the fame he wanted, but not liking it like he thought he would. And then being saddled with addiction and having that erode the dreams he believed he wanted, but was too late to achieve. Just, wow. Wow. Oh, shit. Oh my God, I've been rambling. Hello? Shit, hello? Did I make it? Hello? Did I make it?
Who are you yelling at?
Is
the internet? And are you trying to yell at the internet from your podcast?
I don't know, damn it. Oh my God.
It's weird that I can 100% believe that you think it'll work.
Fuck. You! I was talking to you. Did I make it?
Did you make what now?
Oh, for fuck's sake. Did I make a shorter episode so I'm not blamed for when the internet tech fucking god people things or whatever, when they delete all the internet porn? I'm not going to get blamed, right?
What are you yammering about? Oh, right, that. Yeah, they kind of moved on from that a while back. Yep. They're a flaky bunch. Sorry, I didn't tell you. They completely forgot all about you and the porn deletion stuff. Yeah, these internet tech overlords, they have bigger things to contemplate, I guess. Now, they're all talking about Mars and pirates or privates on pirates. It's kind of hard to follow when you don't really care. You know how it is.
Privates?
Oh, man,
Jesus,
you talk to your privates, too? That is just your subconscious screaming for help, man.
How do you just drop out of nowhere? Where do you come from?
I've been told I have very quiet feet. Hey, check this out, man. I was at the park doing my hack thing and got to talking to some guys who heard about you, man. Pretty cool, huh? It was weird that they knew about your porn problem, too. They went on about you deleting all the porn, and I was like, yes, good. That'll help him a lot. Tough love kind of approach. Good for him, I told them, because it is, man. It really is. Confronting addiction head on, always good. So, yeah. Then they talked about how much space would be saved or something. I wasn't paying attention. I was hacking my sack. But then, I heard them mention space a couple times. And I was like, oh, did you know that space is going to be privatized? They were really, really interested then, man. We talked for a while.
Oh, dear God.
Oh no, we didn't get around to talking about God, but we did get around to smoking some weed. A lot of weed, if you know what I mean.
You just said exactly what you meant.
Yep. Anyway, a spliff or two later, and we're hitting up the ice cream shop. Man, ice cream is so good.
Ah, that would explain why they're now trying to find out how much oxygen would be needed to make chocolate chip cookie dough ice cream on Mars.
Wow, that's crazy. How did you know?
Just let it go, Alonzo.
See? Now you're getting it. Exactly, man. Just let it go. The first step is realizing you have a problem. Addiction to porn is still an addiction, and that's nothing to be ashamed of.
That's not why I'm not addicted to porn. They were gonna... See...
Just let it out, man.
Dear God. Now, for the last segment of the show, here is When Life Gives You Lemon.
The other day, I was balls deep in a deadline and working real hard at avoiding working real hard. At that crossroads of professional expectation and malignant procrastination, I chose the road suggested not taken. It was there, amid the internet of countless distractions, that I discovered a new pastime taking hold in the intellect-sapped nether regions of social media. The cancerous notion of generational gasconade. You know, where some old dickhead claims that the younger dickheads suck in a way that they themselves didn't suck, yet also they themselves are, somehow, better for having lived through a shittier previous time. What a fucking joke. What the hell are we doing as a species? Listen, as an official old guy with a few younger generations out in front of me and a fuck ton of older ones behind me, I can say, with some modicum of authority, that my fellow old dickheads should really just shut the fuck up. What is with you nostalgia-clouded pricks? Were the days of fighting off a gang of fifth graders for a scrap of a Playboy centerfold really better than the free, instantly available porn we have today? Get the fuck over yourselves. You seem to think that life, back when you were kids, was not only better, but was also a bulky bag of diarrhea at the same time. Listen to yourself. And on top of that, you're thinking that today's generation will just never understand because they're still young, dumb, and are, well, still able to come without prescription medication? Life sucks for everybody. When I was younger, life sucked in some very specific ways, but was also kind of great in others. Here's the thing, people. That's true for everybody. We are all the products of our specific times in history. Sure, my 13-year-old self would have sold his soul for a palm-sized video screen that showed unlimited boobs. You're damn right I would. But those devices didn't exist. I didn't know they would, so I made do, with fighting Jimmy Bondelli behind the gas and sip for the ripped top half of Miss February's centerfold. Now, does that mean the generation that grew up with those dreamy boob screens any weaker or lesser because they have them and I didn't? No. If anything, God bless you, you lucky bastards. Diminishing an entire generation for having something that didn't exist when you were a kid is just being a whiny loser. It's a tragic kind of stupidity wrapped in an insecurity blanket. Look, the generation before mine thought we were spoiled because we had cable, VCRs, and MTV. My grandparents bitched at my parents for having color TV, Disneyland, and coffee that didn't taste like an elephant's asshole. That last one is a direct quote from my grandfather, by the way. And so it goes, on and on, back to the beginning of time. So, shut the fuck up already. And all of you next generations that come later, remember when it's your turn, and shut the fuck up already. The only group of people that have earned the right to bitch about anything are the hominids, those first human being things that hadn't figured out what tools were yet and spent more time starving than living. They can bitch all they want. They had it more rough than anyone, and you don't hear them fucking complaining about it.
Thank you for listening to Elton Reads a Book a Week. If you liked what you heard, please consider contributing to the podcast Patreon. There's a link in the description if you want to do that. And also, you can buy the book that this episode is about in the description. It's an Amazon affiliate link. I know I'm helping to fund a fucking billionaire, but whatever. I mean, it's bullshit, yeah. But if you buy the book through that link, I get a little kickback from Amazon when you do, so it helps me out a little bit too. So, I mean, we all shop at Amazon, unfortunately, so why not help me out with it? You know what I mean? Get the book. It's a good book. Please follow the podcast on social media. Share a link to it too, if you want to, and you can, preferably to someone you might who actually might like it, or maybe with someone who won't. I'm not above revenge plot engagement, believe me. Above all else, thank you for listening. I really do appreciate it. And if you could, start or finish a book this week. Don't let them die out. Thank you very, very, very much. Very much. Very much. Bye.
I've been told I have very quiet feet.